Okay, not that this matters, but I'm going to say it anyway, okay, because it needs to be said. Whoever wins the Oscar for Best Actress this year, congratulations. And just know that in your heart of hearts, Naomi Scott from Smile 2 made you her bitch. All right? Let's review Smile 2. Smile 2 stars Naomi Scott, Rosemary DeWitt, Dylan Gulela, and is directed by Parker Finn.
I've traced the string of deaths to you. Nobody has survived longer than a week.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2024 review. The sequel to Smile, Smile 2, is out. I just gave the first Smile movie a fresh watch. Was that last year or was that the year before? I can't remember. But I gave it a fresh watch. I mean, literally right before watching this movie. And I'm glad I did, because as soon as this movie starts, it says 6 days later from the last movie. So technically you could watch both those movies back to back and it would feel like one continuous movie, which is really cool if you ask me. But both movies, I think, even though they cover the same ground monster wise, they're very different in terms of the characters, what types of characters that they're dealing with. This movie deals with the world of pop music, a pop star. It just goes in a different direction, which I think is pretty interesting and irresistible for this plot. So jumping into a quick plot synopsis, Naomi Scott, she plays Sky. She is, I guess, the current day big pop star. Very similar to like what Lady Gaga is today. And we all know about the Smile entity passing from person to person, and they usually have like less than a week until it passes to the next person. We know the rules from the previous movie. I'm not going to go into all the rules. If you've seen the first movie, then you know the rules. The thing that is so interesting about this movie is that, okay, now we've went from a regular every woman, every man. Now, what happens if we have the Smile entity and we put it on somebody who can't go out in public? You know, like say a Lady Gaga type figure. What would that look like? And I think that is just an irresistible way to go with this plot line. And one thing I really love about this movie is that it is, I think, around 2 hours and 15 minutes, which kind of surprised me. But I like that we need to take as much time as we need to tell a really good story. We don't want it to be cookie cutter. We don't want it to be the same old, same old. And this is definitely not. If you watch the trailer for this movie, you probably have your own preconceived notions about what it entails, because it just looks like, let's face it, it looks like a Blumhouse type scary movie. But it's much more than that, even more than the first movie is. And I think the first movie, after giving it a fresh watch, is really great. I loved it, just because of the performances. Parker Finn, you could tell that he really wanted to make a movie that is very character driven. And really just, let's focus less on the entity and focus more on the effects of the victims, because it's based off of trauma. And so the more trauma that you have in your life, the more seductive that is to the Smile entity. In the life of a pop star, that's one thing I loved about this movie too, is that you do get kind of a fly on the wall, bird's eye view, whatever you want to call it, of the life of a pop star. And I think we often don't realize how tough that life could be. Yeah, we say, oh, woe is me, you have everything, you're rich as can be. On the flip side of that, you have everyone around you, probably a group of at least a dozen people at all times. You can't get any privacy whatsoever. And this movie really showcases that. You could literally strip away the horror element of this movie, and it would be still kind of its own horror movie, because it's about the life of a pop star. And when they have a troubled past, Sky in this movie, she was in this tragic car accident. And we all know, we've seen this in real life with other celebrities, if they have some sort of scandal, because in Sky's case, there was like drug addiction involved and all kinds of stuff. So she's already filled with tons of trauma. And so then what happens when you throw in the smile entity in there and this horror element. And boy, does it make for an interesting watch. And my jaw was squarely dropped on the floor by a few things in this movie. There's some great jump scares here, but I was just really transfixed on Naomi Scott. Her performance is just amazing. I don't have enough adjectives to tell you how great of a performance this is. This is probably the best performance in horror of this year. And dare I say, it could stand toe-to-toe with any performance of any genre of this year. It is that enthralling, and she really just sucks you into the horror of the movie and makes it believable. I mean, that's why I kind of had that opening statement about whoever wins the Oscar, because it's not going to be Naomi Scott, because horror rarely ever gets acknowledged, and especially if it's like a sequel to a horror movie, yeah, forget it. It doesn't matter how great the performance is. But I can tell you right now, Naomi Scott is incredible in this movie. And it really surprised me, because I thought this was going to be like another cookie cutter horror movie. And I hate to sound like a freaking broken record, but my God, this year is unstoppable. I think that's the word now. Unstoppable. And if you think that this year isn't that great in horror, then you're stuck. And I don't know where you're stuck, but you don't have your eyes open, because you just haven't seen the movies that I've seen, because this is insanity at this point. It's insanity. Now, staying on the characters, not just Naomi Scott, she is supported by a bevy of great performances all around her. I like a horror movie that, you can tell the actors, they just take it seriously. The plot line, as silly as it sounds like it could be. But this particular premise, I think it just offers up so many opportunities for scares, and you're not just going to get jump scares in this movie. There's so many different types of scares. I love those scares where they don't depend on the music, Sometimes just the silence, like a camera panning across a room and you see something in the background, but you don't hear a noise, and you're not even sure if you saw it. And there's stuff like that in this movie, which is great. Also, just the reactions of the characters can be quite horrific. We saw that in the first movie, in the opening. And there's definitely more of that in this. But this movie, it takes its time. It really breathes, and it gives you a chance to really understand what the characters, especially Skye, is going through. I mean, this is all about her throughout this whole movie. And it's not sort of like what we saw with Trap, where most of the movie feels like it's just watching a concert. No, there's a couple of scenes like that, but for the most part, we're going behind the scenes and following Skylar and seeing all the craziness around her, let alone the smile entity. So this is another instance where 2 hours and 15 minutes just flies right by. You can't take your eyes off the screen. You never know where it's going to go. There are quite a few surprises in this movie as well. If you really step back and think about how things play out in the final act, you might come to the conclusion that didn't really make sense, but it was still highly entertaining. I actually loved the ending, but how we got there, I think, could have been explained a little bit better. I guess that's my only gripe about the movie, but high purchase worthy for sure for Smile 2. And this is shaping up to be a really great franchise. I'm sure that there's going to be a third movie, maybe a fourth movie down the line, just because of the possibilities. There's so many different routes that can go with this particular premise. So yeah, Smile 2, that's my review. Incredible. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my socials, support me on Patreon, become a channel member, buy me a coffee. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Drumdum out.